here with Ivan
Aristeguieta.
Aristeguieta. I always get it wrong. So say it again for me, Ivan.
Aristeguieta.
There we go. And you've done my pub gig before, and I always get it wrong.
A couple of times, yeah.
But I always used to get Dilruk J Singer wrong as well, so it took me a while to get it right. And we're here because we've already done one early show and we're doing a late show.
Great. I like this thing of doing 2 shows per night in the same venue.
It's good, isn't it?
It's so comfortable, yeah.
I reckon it's just a good way to go, and you can make a bit more money, and we're all come back from COVID. So, well, we didn't have COVID, but we're all, back.
From the lockdown.
From the lockdown.
From doing time in lockdown 2020.
Yeah. How'd you go in lockdown?
I did great, man. I met someone October last year, and during lockdown we decided to move in together because the world was going to end, and it's actually one of those beautiful stories that actually worked out.
Is she, you're from Venezuela originally, is she an Australian?
She's Australian, yeah.
Wow, right, okay.
I would like her to learn Spanish, but not as a cultural thing, just because she's terrible at being discreet.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, right.
I think the best way of talking about other people in public is another language.
Yes. And because your story is so interesting. You're from Venezuela, as I said, and you came to Australia not as a comic, but did you start comedy here in Adelaide?
No, I studied in Venezuela.
You studied in Venezuela?
Yeah. So my plan was to have a decent normal life with a day job and keep doing comedy as a hobby. I wasn't expecting to be making money and being a professional comedian. I was a professional comedian in Venezuela, but I wasn't.
What sort of scene is it there?
It was very nice at the beginning. Let's say we Venezuela, we started very late as stand-up comedy because let's say the it was still in nappies, the industry, the scene, because in Venezuela we only had famous comedians from sketch comedy on telly,
similar to France, kind of, I think.
Who did their comedy? Who did their individual shows, like the solo shows in theaters, but there was no scene. There was no comedy clubs. There was no open mics. And then the stars aligned in the country where the Chavez was alive by then, the president, the dictator. He was there. He cancelled a TV station which had the main comedy TV sketch show of the country. It's been running for 29 years. The same show every Monday at 8:00. There was
it's an institution. Yeah.
Institution, yeah. And also closed a lot of radio stations. And radio is quite linked to comedy.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I don't say that this was the thing that started live comedy, but it all happened at the same time. This thing happened in the media in Venezuela, and also a very famous Colombian comedian. His name is Andres Lopez. He sort of revolutionized he was like the biggest, not the first, but I'm saying the biggest international superstar in Spanish. Wow. And everybody in Venezuela at the same time, that same year, knew verbatim his entire show. It was called the Pelota de Letras, which translates like that soup with letters, with alphabet soup.
Alphabet soup. Yeah.
So it was like instead of the alphabet soup was the alphabet ball. Pelota means ball.
Yeah, right.
So in Venezuela, you can see that DVD or CD being sold
everywhere,
like in pirate in traffic, people selling on the middle of the road, and everybody knew it by heart. And then the guy started touring the entire Latin America. And it was like a rock star. So a guy who I know, his name is George. He was living in Spain, Venezuelan with an American name. His name is George Harris, but he's more Venezuelan than my entire family together. He in Spain he did some stand-up for the first time. They call it in Spain. They don't use the English word, English term stand-up comedy. They call it Spanish monologues. Sorry, they call it humorous monologues.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Or comedy monologues. So he came back to Venezuela and he opened the very first open mic on a Monday in a club.
Oh wow!
And I was there, and a friend of mine said, "Listen, this thing is happening. You're really good at telling jokes. You have a lot of melody. Let's do comedy." And then we started. So I
how many years did you do that for?
So I did comedy in Venezuela like almost 5 years before migrating to Australia.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And because I remember talking to you. You're a food technologist. Is that
food
right?
technologist, and then I studied brewery.
That's right. Brewery, and you came here to make beer.
Yeah.
Wow. And so then, and did you settle in Adelaide? Is that where you started?
I started in Adelaide because it was a visa thing. So we, I say we because at the time was married and we migrated together. Our visa was a regional visa, so the visa that we got was a temporary regional visa, and Adelaide was considered regional.
Sorry to Adelaide people in Adelaide. That's not fair. You're a city.
So I got a job in the food industry teaching certificate 1 and 2 in food processing, and systems of food safety systems, and then I got an offer, a job offer with West End Brewery in
huge in Adelaide.
And I started already doing comedy in English in Adelaide, and the job that I was being offered was a shift supervisor in the brew house.
Yeah.
And that included, working late nights and weekends, and I was like, no, I think I'm gonna do comedy here. It looks good, and I cannot say no to comedy, so I'd rather have a day job instead of
And that's when because you were talking about, you hung up with all those Adelaide legends, Jason Chong, Klimzak. Bowley, Michael Bowley. Because I know, because we all know those guys.
And Kel Balnaves,
Kel Balnaves. They're all good comics, and they produce a lot of good comedians in Adelaide. But you obviously moved to Melbourne, and then people may know you from your gala appearances because they just went through the roof. How many gala spots have you done now on the Comedy Festival Gala?
So I've done 2 Oxfam and 2 All Stars. 4 in total. Yeah.
What was the first one? You would have been like no one knew who you were, and they would have just taken a gamble.
There was the Bunning Sausage Sizzle one.
You did the sausage.
Yeah. That I'm actually bringing back because
never stop doing that.
I actually stopped doing it for a few years.
Don't do that
because that video went slightly viral, and I thought, wow, I don't want.
Everyone's heard it.
I don't want to. But after lockdown, it's like I've got to bring it
back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love your routine about it. It might be part of the same routine where you ring up your mate in Venezuela and go, they've got barbecues in the parks here and they're free.
That's from the same show.
That's great. Because me and you, I always try to remember on this podcast where I first met you, and I can't. Maybe it was during the comedy festival, but we definitely went to Inverloch together, which is a coastal town in Victoria, and I drove you there, and we did a gig for carers, and for mainly elderly people who are caring for their partner. And the woman said, and some of their partners will be there because they got no one to look after them. But it was, and they were really old. They were just sitting around the table.
They loved it.
And then, so I brought you on as a special guest. I said, I'll just do whatever, and then I'll bring you on. And you were so good, and they loved it. But then afterwards, it was the most unusual request. The woman organizer said, I've got something to ask you. Can you go around to this woman's house? She couldn't make it today. She's very sick.
Yeah.
She's like a fan of yours and she wants to meet you. She had cancer.
Yeah.
And so we went around to her house.
It was very sad.
It was very sad, but it was lovely too.
It was lovely. So her kids were there. And
the kids were looking after her. The teenagers were looking after her.
Yeah. And she looked very sick.
She died a few weeks later, and I sent her a book and stuff, and she was lovely, but she couldn't make it to the gig. But it is one of the more unusual requests that I've ever had.
It's very unusual. Do you think?
I think you said, does this happen in Australia a lot? I'm like, no, this has never happened before.
Do you think comedians we're better connected to our emotions than the average?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Because the reaction for both of us was immediately like, we're not gonna do jokes here. We're gonna feel with these people. We're gonna. It was an immediate connection with them. It was sad. It was bittersweet, but it was.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, you've got to go and do the gig, and then so we'll catch up afterwards, and we'll recap. We'll debrief about the gig, Ivan.
Perfect.
Ivan
Aristeguieta.
Okay, like David Guetta. Yeah. Good. Okay, I'll just say Ivan. Okay, we'll be back on the debrief. Ivan Aristeguieta is with me. We're driving home now. You were great.
Thanks, man.
Ivan. And your second set was a bit different. So
slightly different, yeah, to make it fun. Because at the moment, after 8 months, I'm just trying to remember all the jokes. So
it's hard, isn't it?
It's very hard. So if they come to my mind during the show, I just let them out.
Let them out? Why not?
Yeah.
You let them out.
Yeah.
I was talking to my brother who lives in Switzerland, and he speaks French every day. But I asked him, "Do you think in French?" He goes, "No, I think in English still." And so you must obviously doing comedy. Yeah, we can't turn right here. That's no good. Doing comedy in a second language must be very hard. You must think in Spanish.
I guess I think most of the time in English at the moment. But there's things like, for example, maths are very difficult. I cannot count in English if I'm, for example, working out or counting money or, just count. And also, puppy talk. I cannot do puppy talk in English.
Puppy talk?
Yeah, when there's a puppy and you go, oh, little puppy.
So you do it in Spanish?
In Spanish. It comes out in Spanish.
Wow.
Also, yeah.
Because I remember we did that. We've done a few TV shows together. Or have you just done one? We did that movie show.
Yeah.
Show Me the Movie, hosted by Rove.
Yeah.
And you were, and that's sort of, you've got to sort of improvise on the spot. A lot of those panel shows. It must be hard for you because you must think in Spanish and then translate into English.
Yeah. In that case, improvising, yes. And sometimes I know there's a specific word that it will work beautifully in the joke, and it doesn't come to my mind, and it's like a big, brain fart that it's hard to come out clean after it. Yeah. That's why I'm not a crowd work comedian.
No, it's too hard if you've got to think of, unless you have set responses. But that's really I find that really interesting. And so, was that a big challenge? It must have been a big challenge to do comedy in your second language.
Yeah, well, I knew how to do comedy, and then I spoke the language. But my biggest concern was my accent at the time when I arrived here, because I was
too strong.
Because I knew, because I already knew comedy. I know that one of the most important things of comedy is for people to understand what you say.
Yeah.
If they don't get you, they will never get the joke. So I did lessons with a speech coach.
Oh wow! Yeah, right.
I found one. So what I did at the beginning was I did a radio course with there's a school
of radio.
A school in Adelaide called the Australian Radio School, and because I knew I just wanted to be comfortable in front of a mic in a different language.
Good idea.
So I did the course, and then I asked the teacher if he knew anyone to do speech, like a speech lesson speech, and he knew a person who was the coach of the local television news anchors.
Oh wow! Yeah, right.
And she was great, and she knew my situation. I told her the truth, like, listen, I just migrated here. I'm a comedian. I used to do comedy on radio in Venezuela. I just want to know if my accent is... And she was lovely, and she charged me as if I was a student. She didn't charge me the same money that she charged, Channel 10.
Channel 10, yeah.
So I did 6 sessions with her, and we did, all the exercises like reading out loud, exaggerating the pronunciation and enunciating everything properly, and then it got to a point like, listen, if you just want people to understand what you're saying, I understand everything you're saying. If you want to change the accent, and if you want to have like a London BBC accent, you got to stay with me for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But
you don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah, but yeah. So see, I understand everything you say, and that gave me confidence to do my first open mic in Adelaide. So I did that open mic run by Michael Bowley in the old Rhino room that no longer exists.
Yeah, great room. And how did it go your first night?
Really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember the way they used to do the open mics in Adelaide. So well, it was on a Monday, so you had to put your name in a list, and if you brought 10 paying guests, three paying guests, $10 each. If you brought 3 paying guests, you can be on stage. And every Monday they will pick a winner, so the winner didn't have to bring the 3 paying guests the next week. So I won.
Oh, fantastic!
And that was the
pressure's on. You've just moved to the country. You got to bring 3 people. You get your wife, but
And I brought my wife and a couple of friends, Venezuelan friends.
Yeah, good.
Whom I met in Adelaide.
Yeah, great.
But, you know, like every time when you're an immigrant and you meet people from your country, they become family straight away.
That's my brother in Switzerland. I'm hanging out with Jeremy. He's from Broadmeadows originally, and his brother gives me updates on your career. You're not going that well, apparently. Thanks, Jeremy's brother. Anyway, but yeah, my brother does that. He hangs out with Australians in Switzerland. Yeah. Well, you just want to talk about common stuff.
Yeah. And you connect that, like, you know, like us comedians, when you meet another comedian overseas, you immediately know so many things of that person without even knowing that person. So the same thing happens with immigrants. Like you're
absolutely,
you know so many things for like the upbringing, the pop culture. We were talking about music and before and backstage in the show, and
I talk about Devo, and you know who Devo were.
Yeah, I didn't know the name of the band. I know the song you mentioned, Whip It.
Yeah.
But in Venezuela we had, you know, all the Anglo music of the time.
Yeah, but just the big acts. You probably had Madonna, Michael Jackson.
But at the same time we have all the Spanish acts of the time.
They're
and
huge.
Spanish is so many countries and so many genres that it's hard to, like, there's so much stuff that I don't know. Like, when, you know, there's a lovely piano bar in the city. I forgot the name, but I've been there a couple of times here in Melbourne, where you write a song title on a little piece of paper and you put it on a big fishbowl that the piano player has, and it's like a cocktail bar, and then when the piano man gets there, you just start getting songs and everybody's singing, and I'm like, I don't know this song. Right.
That's funny. There might be Australian or even British or American songs though. You don't know.
Very like, I know the melodies of the main ones, but not the lyrics. It's very hard to pick up lyrics.
I reckon in 10 years' time you'll be putting on the accent. You'll be like,
probably
backstage, hang on, mate. Bring it. Anyway, I gotta get on. I gotta get on stage now.
Fucking yeah, bro.
Yeah, you do a good Aussie accent, actually. It is always funny. And so, have you found the Australian comedy scene welcoming? Have they been welcoming?
Extremely. Lovely. It's like a big family. It's starting in Adelaide, so the Adelaide...
they stick together, Adelaide comedians.
Yeah, it's like a little family, so it was very supportive. I actually got recommended by locals to people here in Melbourne, so I can do things like Comedy Zone and with the Melbourne Comedy Festival. So, and they were very proud, and they considered.
You were considered an Adelaide comedian.
Yes, absolutely.
I know.
Yeah.
And you had your web series too, which was on ABC iView.
Yeah.
I remember that. It was good.
It was called Lost in Pronunciation, and we got the grant from South Australian Film something, and all the people who worked in that little project was from South Australia, and it was beautiful, man. It was based on my comedy. It was based on my story about being an immigrant and trying to make Australian friends as soon as possible, because it's the only way you can understand a culture and connect with people. You have to get in the culture and have, like, I know a lot of immigrants. It's the normal. I don't blame them, but it's a practice that I don't recommend. When you go to another country, staying with the people from your country will do you no good.
You have
to blend and learn and have friends and I always say this. When I was in Venezuela, and I decided to come to Australia, a friend of mine told me this thing that I'll never forget. He said, like, man, you're on a radio show, you're doing your comedy, you're starting to be famous, you're starting to be on the telly here, you're someone here. Why are you gonna go to another country? You'll be no one.
Yeah, true.
And I thought, like, I kept me thinking about what it's like to be someone, and I think to be someone doesn't mean to be recognized and be famous. For me, to be someone means if you disappear, how many people will ask for you?
Ah, right, yeah, right.
So that's what I recommend to every, not just an immigrant. If you move to a different city, a different
state,
different state, like you have to, like the most important asset, it's people, and like you have to make friends. So I actually did I took very seriously the job or the task of meeting people.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll go. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going.
Okay.
You live not far from me, so.
Nice. So for me, part of my first year of being in Australia was, as soon as I met someone, like, so let's go for a coffee, or are you going to this gig? Let's have a beer before the show, and starting talking to people, starting making acquaintances and friends.
Yeah, comedy's good for that too, I reckon.
Very good, very good. Yeah. And now I can say I have really good friends from that. Well, you know my story. I got divorced, and after that, I had to, instead of moving by myself, I spent 3 years on the road.
Yes.
Without paying any rent or anything, and because of that, I had a lot of friends around who I can, crash and in the place and use their couch and stay for a couple of days and then keep moving.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. Such fascinating. I've got these questions I ask everyone on the debrief. What went well tonight, and why? You reckon in your act? Like, what went well?
I think what went well? You mean like proper, like the individual jokes?
Yeah. What bits went well?
Well,
yeah.
I'm always the new joke is the joke that you pay more attention to.
Yes.
So I had a couple of new jokes, and I said for the very first time a joke about saying that I always, as an immigrant, I always want to explain to non-immigrants what it's like to be an immigrant, and I'm very grateful to COVID-19 for bring context. And and then the punchline, it's like, and you now know what it's like to be an immigrant. And then I say, you use the term dictator a bit loose.
Yes.
And then I got a big laugh there, and that was like the highlight of the night.
That got a huge response.
Yeah.
Great, that's great.
Yeah. So
now we've got to turn left up here, don't we? Sorry?
Yes. So it's sort of like a U-turn to go back to West Coast Street.
Yeah. And so what didn't go well, you reckon, in your act? Like,
what didn't go well? So, Jesus, we cannot turn left here. What's happening?
The pit cleaning. Caution, pit cleaning.
Can we?
Let's see if we can turn.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
So I tried another little joke, because I will fix it, but I wanted to say it out loud for the first time because the gig overall went well. So I was giving myself some leeway to try new material. So I said that my girlfriend, I want my girlfriend to learn Spanish, not as a cultural thing, but because she's very bad at being discreet.
Yes.
So right here.
Oh, you're right here, aren't you? You're right. Yeah.
Right here. She's very bad at being discreet, and she has this thing generally where she thinks like if she's talking about another person in the same public situation, and she doesn't want that person to hear that we're talking about a person. For some reason, she thinks that speaking out loud with a nasal accent is somehow better than whispering.
Yeah, right. I'm laughing.
So she will go like, the lady with the red dress.
I'm laughing, but I suppose if it was Spanish, no one would understand unless they speak Spanish.
Yeah. So I think I gotta fix a bit of some wording there, and make it and have like a. So the example with a nasal accent has to be another punchline inside with an accent.
Very funny within that bit.
Yeah. And maybe if eventually what I want to do with this joke, if eventually I'm talking something that sounds a bit, PC or PI, politically incorrect.
Yeah,
I will say with a nasal accent, so I can get away with saying it.
Sure.
But let's see. That's what I'm trying at the
Work
moment.
in progress.
Yeah.
We're just getting back into it. What were there any organisational hazards that got in the way?
No.
It was very. We have to be COVID safe, but you didn't have to wear masks or anything.
The mic exchange was a bit weird.
Oh yeah, so we had to have our own mic.
Yes, so we all had our own mics
And
with
our own stand,
which is even weirder. And
with our names written on it.
Yeah. So that didn't make much sense because we were all sharing the same
dressing
room, and we were, so that didn't make much sense. But listen, we were all learning.
We're all learning. We're all trying. We're all doing it. And how can we do better next time? Do you reckon at that gig? More people probably because they had a COVID thing. They can only had so many people in there.
Yeah.
So more people would be good.
Limited, and the venue is great. I imagine that place at full capacity will be amazing.
I remember doing gigs there years ago because the Corner Hotel is a rock venue in Melbourne, and Mick Jagger played there, and I've seen many bands there, and but it's actually not a bad comedy venue. If you get enough people in there, it's great.
It's very similar to the Howler in Brunswick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very similar
rock and roll
setup. Yeah.
Rock and roll. Well, I'll let you go, Ivan.
Oh, it's great, man.
We'll chat again, don't worry.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the lift.
Ivan Aristeguieta?
Yes!
Finally!
Yeah.
I feel like such a dumb person. I get names wrong, but it happens all the time. And look, you can follow Ivan you'll be on Instagram and
Instagram, Ivan Comedy, and Facebook at Ivan Comedy, and my website, ivancomedy.com.au.
Go and see him because it's like a party. He's a party starter, Ivan. It's just people. It's a really good. He's got a great comedy act.
Thanks, man.
Ivan, okay, let's go. We're exhausted. We haven't done live work for ages. I'm exhausted.
Yes. 2 shows.
Oh,
40 minutes.
Exhausting.
Thanks, man.
All right.